Hi, it's Laura at Aquamarine 18 Tarot and Books. Thanks for stopping by my channel today. Welcome or welcome back. I am here with my more delayed than usual end of month recap for October 2024. I have been trying to find the energy and motivation and desire to film, but struggling a little bit. Not desire so much. I did have a fantastic reading month for Blackoween, which of course I've wanted to share with everyone, but I ended up sick at the end of October and I'm still feeling not 100%. So my October is a bit of a blur because I got to end that month with COVID for the second time that I've had it, the second time our household has had it. I did not have too bad of a time. I did not have as bad of a time as the first time, but it did leave me feeling drained, and I haven't been sleeping well as it is because of injury-related pain, so it has been a rough week and a half, 2 weeks. I still sound a little bit funny to myself. I've had a bit of a cough and some congestion and so on. So if I sound weird to you, that's why. I am feeling a lot better. I'm back at work, but it's just been a tiring time. So I have some kind of general life updates, things to share. I have lots of great books to tell you about, and that's really about it for my updates. I don't have much to say in terms of tarot or decks or anything like that because I didn't purchase any decks. I didn't receive any decks. I guess I'm in this section now. I'm on to tarot and then I'll do life update stuff. I did back My Friend Fire on Kickstarter, but I didn't get anything new in. So I'm excited about My Friend Fire. I've been waiting and waiting to back that deck by Marty in the Sky, who did the Gentle Tarot. I was the number 2 backer for Gentle Tarot and turned into backer number 1 because number 1 backed out. So I like to say I was backer number 1 for Gentle Tarot. I was nowhere near that for My Friend Fire, but I'm in for the campaign and I'm excited to see that deck when it comes to fruition. I know there have been some kind of walkthroughs of prototypes. I have been avoiding them. I'll save my first impressions. So that is the extent of my deck acquisition for October. So nothing actually new came in. The decks that I've been using this month for October, I did want to get out some kind of spooky Halloween leaning decks. And so for that, I got out the Trionfi della Luna, and this is the illustrated pips version in the kind of standard color way. And I have been having a fantastic time with this deck. I have the paradoxical for the Trionfi della Luna, the Marseille version. And I got this one. I knew I wanted to get it when it came out. I haven't used it as much as I might have since I got this one, the illustrated pips in particular. But this is a really good reader. I've been having a really good time with this. So yeah, this has been my kind of daily draw deck for most of October. I've done some larger readings with it too. I really, really like this. I really, really like this. And I shouldn't be saying that with surprise, having had this in my collection, since it was released. But this is the most kind of sustained time I've spent with it, and I've really enjoyed it. I also have been working with the Marigold Tarot by Amrit Brar, which is not a spooky deck at all. It does have skeletons, but it's not a deck I think of as kind of Halloween-y or anything. But I do find that the golden black color palette feels autumnal to me, and it's something I want to reach for during autumn time. And I've been really loving this deck as well. This is a favorite for me. I've had this deck for quite some time. I've mentioned before that I got to buy this from Amrit at a market in Toronto, which was cool to get to chat with her for a bit. I have the Mirror Oracle as well. and that one's up on my table. So I've been using them together. I really like this deck too. It's an absolute favorite. And just in the last couple of days, so technically a November deck, I guess, I've been using the Earth Mother Magic Tarot by Shamiri Yashin. I love this deck too. This is my moon phase deck for this moon phase. So I have a reading that I will do, and it's 3 prompts, which I'll do with 6 cards. And I have one for each moon phase. And I got those 3 card readings from the Stars Dance Astrology School, which I'm a member of on Patreon. Stars Dance is really good if you're interested in learning astrology from a contemporary queer perspective. The forecasts that are included in the Patreon from the lowest tier up are really good. The follow the moon forecast, and there's different other things throughout the year included too. So I've been using those moon phase readings, and this cycle is with this deck, Earth Mother Magic. So that's the decks I've been working with. I have been invited, as a life update news, I have been invited to read tarot at a market in early December. This is a market that I did 2 years ago, I think, and last year it didn't actually run. So I've been asked back, and I'm really looking forward to going. I had a lot of fun last time. The last time I was there, I offered kind of 2 readings at 2 different price points, like a small 3-card reading and then a larger 9-card reading. And I think I'll probably do the same thing. I did kind of suggested prices or pay what you can, which feels good to me. I want to be accessible, for folks. And December's, financially challenging for lots of reasons for lots of people. Utility bills going up in the cold and things like that. So pay what you can is what I will do again. I'm deciding what decks to bring to this market. And it is kind of a witchy, spooky, Nightmare Before Christmas kind of vibe, this market. My friend organizes it. And so I'm debating whether to incorporate that theme into my deck choice or not. And you can tell me in the comments what you think. The last time I read at the market, I went for a couple of inclusive Smith-Waite-based decks with a range of art styles to give people something to pick from. So I ended up bringing Dreaming Way Tarot, Neo Tarot, and Fifth Spirit. And they all got chosen, and anybody getting a reading could pick which deck they wanted. And they all got picked roughly equally. And so there's part of me that's tempted to take the same decks again, because I think they were a hit. But then there's also a part of me, and it's really because I've been using this Triumphi Della Luna deck, that's thinking, should I bring a kind of deck that might be a little bit Halloween-y, might be a little bit spooky fun in its own way. I don't experience this deck that way, but I wonder if Queerance might, So I'm not sure. I'm really not sure what deck to bring. I'm not sure, reading for total strangers, if you get a card with someone farting fire, is that weird? I don't know. If I was the Queerant, I would think it was cool, but I love these decks, so, I don't know. Maybe somebody just wouldn't pick it if they weren't into it. Deviant Moon is my partner Chris's favorite deck. The only one I've done readings for Chris with is Deviant Moon, actually. So I don't know. I don't know what to bring. I'm also thinking about bringing the Marigold Tarot because I've been enjoying it so much this month. So I think people would really like this. I think that it's really beautiful. So I can't decide. You tell me what you think I should consider when it comes to bringing decks to the market. I don't know what to bring. I'll figure it out the day before, probably. I'm excited, too, about the market because I think I'm going to try to sell some decks from my collection. I do have a little bag of things that I intend to rehome that I have been adding to slowly. There's not a ton in there, but I definitely have an assortment of decks that I would like to rehome. But I find the idea of things like eBay postings to just be laborious in ways that I don't want to deal with. And being in Canada and international shipping prices being what they are, there's a point where it doesn't feel like there's much of a point. And I'm not particularly keen on, making like a bidding situation or anything like that. Nothing in the rehome basket is something that I would think would go for a massive amount of money. There's nothing super, super out of print in there. I would mostly be interested in just kind of gifting things along, but I think I'm going to make a bit of a sale table. So I'll be thinking about that, and I'll let you all know how it goes. I also might end up, we'll see. Last time I was at the market, I ended up doing some swaps, and I traded tarot readings for some other things at the market from other people who were vending there. So there's a chance of that as well with the decks. I will let you know how it goes. I'm excited about this. The other fun thing that came up this month that I got to do was that at work we did a silent auction, a fundraiser silent auction. And this is a kind of slightly very good-natured competition between different workplaces locally to raise money for a local foundation that does a lot of good work. And so we're invited to kind of contribute things to the silent auction or do other activities that could raise some money. And I decided to offer mini birth chart readings, and 3 coworkers took me up on it. So I priced them very modestly at $15 a piece. So I raised $45 for the charity that we were raising money for. I also spent $30 on other things. So I did a pretty good job on this, I think. I made each person a little write-up, and I printed a copy of their chart from astro.com, and we kind of spent a bit of lunch hour going over them. So I talked about annual perfections, and I talked about just some interesting features in the different birth charts and kind of the big 3 of sun, moon, and ascendant. We did, look at just some little interesting things. And if people had questions about their chart, then they could ask them. And one of the coworkers has a good kind of grasp of astrology and is learning astrology also. And then the others were more new to it. And so I had a really great time doing that. I'm not envisioning myself being a working astrologer anytime soon. But in this context where, it's with people that I know, and it was very much like this is a basic kind of beginner thing. I had a lot of fun doing it. I think I might try incorporating a little bit of astrology content into this channel. I'm hesitant because I feel like such a beginner, but maybe something about my own chart. We'll see. That's my month. That's my October. It kind of just feels soured at the end because of having been sick, but it was a good month overall. It was my spouse's birthday in early October, so we got to go out for a nice dinner. Last year, actually, right around this time was also when we were sick, and we had missed the birthday dinner because we got COVID right before we were supposed to go. So this time, COVID waited till the end of the month, so we got to go out for birthday dinner, which was really nice. That was my October. Now, the most exciting thing, though, about October for me was Blackoween. And Blackoween, I've made a TBR video, but I'll link again the kind of explanation from Locked Booktition about Blackoween for this year. It is a readathon focusing on, of course, reading Black authors in a range of genres, including kind of spooky books, crime fiction, horror. There are different areas on a map that you can visit to read different types of books and different prompts, and it's fantastic readathon. I'm so happy I did it. I got to do my first ever reading sprints. I think I did like 3 hours worth of reading sprinting with other folks on YouTube through Blackoween, and I had so much fun. I recommend it wholly. I can't wait to do it again next year. I read a bunch of things that were outside of my usual genre-wise, books that I had not heard of or was only marginally familiar with, before this month. So I read 12 books, and I want to tell you about them. Most of them are for Blackoween prompts. There were a couple that were not. but most of them are for Blackoween. So in no particular order, but kind of in the order I read them chronologically, not quite, but close. I finished in very early October, The Sun Forge by Sacha Stronach, and this is a book that I was reading with Katie Flowers' Blossom Book Club, actually. And The Sun Forge is a sequel to a book called The Dawn Hounds. It is in a part of a trilogy. This is a Maori-inspired, queer, science fictional, fantastical series. And I'm quite enjoying it so far. I don't want to say too much about it because the second I do, I will start spoiling the plot. But go and read, description of the Dawn Hounds and see if it is up your alley. And if it is, I would recommend checking it out. I found The Sun Forge to get very confusing partway through. I think about the midpoint, I got a little bit confused. I enjoyed it. I think they're really well written. There's kind of multiple simultaneous storylines going on, which is something that I always like. But oh my goodness, did I ever get confused. I feel like these books each one needs to have at the beginning a kind of previously summary of the prior book, because I think that I suffered a little bit in my reading experience because I didn't read them back to back. I read The Dawn Hounds when it was a new release, also with Katie Flowers' Blossom Book Club, and I read The Sun Forge again, is a very recent new release. I think if I had waited until this whole trilogy was out and read them all closer together, I would have been less confused in The Sun Forge. So there is an aspect of this that it's not the book, it's me. There's an aspect of it that it's the book as well. I feel like there was maybe one too many things going on, but I did quite like this. I read The Murders of Molly Southbourne by Tade Thompson. Tade Thompson I've read before. I really like his work. And The Murders of Molly Southbourne I read for a prompt in Blackoween that had to do with a book with body parts in it. And in The Murders of Molly Southbourne, briefly, the premise is that when Molly bleeds, it generates a double of Molly, who is then trying to kill her. This book was something. It was something. It starts off with Molly being quite young. And I think that Tade Thompson does an interesting and very good job of exploring some of the stranger and more serious implications of the premise of this book. I don't know how to say this without giving spoilers again, but he goes there. Suffice to say, he goes there. It is gory and body horror laden, and I thought it was great. It's a very short book. And I think that he does a lot in a very short format. And I was happy to read this from him because my previous experience reading Tade Thompson is with quite longer novels. And I think that he can really do a short form well based on this. So if you are a horror reader who is okay with gore, then I would recommend The Murders of Molly Southbourne. If you are not okay with gore, then I would say steer clear. Steer clear because it is as bloody as it sounds. I read a anthology, The Year's Best African Speculative Fiction, 2023. This is a brand new release. I have been reading these anthologies for a couple of years now. The Year's Best African Speculative Fiction. I read 2021 and 2022, and now I've read 2023. These are fantastic 5-star anthologies. Cannot recommend them enough. They're so well edited. You know, inevitably with a collection like this of all different authors, there will be stories that a reader likes more or less. But on the whole, they're really, really good collections. There's no filler. Really well put together. 5 stars. 5 stars for The Year's Best African Speculative Fiction. And you always find authors that you've never read before to check out when you read these books. Absolutely, absolutely recommend. There are authors that I've found through these anthologies who have gone on to read longer works from. You know, they're just really, really good collections. So I would definitely check this one out. And I used this for kind of a free space, like wild card for Blackoween. Even though my TBR was a little bit too fantasy and too sci-fi compared to what the intention of the readathon was. So I did rework, you'll see, my TBR quite a bit, and some of the things on the TBR didn't get read, and some things that weren't on my TBR I did read. So that was something. But I did read that book, and that was one that I had planned on reading. So I really like that. Pick up any of the year's best African speculative fiction and you will not be disappointed. I read Devil in a Blue Dress by Walter Mosley. This is a novel that is totally outside my comfort zone genre-wise, totally different than anything I've read before, really. It's a well-known book, Devil in a Blue Dress. There's a film based on Devil in a Blue Dress with some big-name actors in it as well, which I have not seen, but I would like to now that I've read the book. And this follows a veteran who is out of work, and he is approached to take a kind of private investigator job. And, you know, he needs the money. He's got a mortgage. He is definitely kind of backed into a corner in terms of taking this job. And of course, there's danger involved and all kinds of things happen. I really liked this. Easy Rollins, who is the detective character, I thought he was really interesting, really kind of multifaceted and real feeling as a character. I know that Walter Mosley has written a whole bunch of Easy Rollins books featuring this particular character, Devil in a Blue Dress being the first one. And based on it, I want to read more. The kind of crime fiction is not my usual thing at all, but I really liked this. I liked how Mosley tackled the, you know, particular kinds of historical dynamics of the time period in this book. I liked the kind of commentary on racism and how it affected the different characters in different ways. I just thought this was really good. I thought this was really good. And I will definitely read more Walter Mosley on the basis of this. I read The Dead Cattail Assassins by P. Djeli Clark. P. Djeli Clark, folks may know, is an auto-buy author for me. I love his work. I seek out any new book that P. Djeli Clark puts out. I think he's amazing. And The Dead Cattail Assassins has been on my list. I'm surprised I hadn't already read it, to be quite honest. But I knew it would fit for that nighttime vibes prompt in Blackoween. And there was also a prompt in Blackoween about a book where a deal is made. And The Dead Cattail Assassins fit that as well. So does Devil in a Blue Dress, which was a book for the crime fiction prompt. I did some doubling up, but I also read a lot of books. So The Dead Cattail Assassins follows Evine the Eviscerator, who is a undead assassin for hire, who is part of a kind of assassin's guild, who lives by a series of rules in terms of taking on the jobs, and the jobs have to be completed, right? You have to complete the job that you take. And of course, something gets in the way of this. This book, I love P. Djeli Clark. I loved Evine the Eviscerator. I had so much fun reading this book. It is P. Djeli Clark does this kind of really interesting kind of tones where the subject matter and the kind of feeling of the story intermix in interesting ways, and this is no exception. I recommend The Dead Cattail Assassins wholeheartedly. It's creepy, but it's fun, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. There is some aspect of comic relief. It's done well. Love it. Loved it. I read Anoka, a collection of Indigenous horror by Shane Hawk. There is one prompt in Blackoween that invites reading a book by an Indigenous man. And Shane Hawk I had read previously in a collection, possibly more than one, collection of kind of anthologies collecting the work of different Indigenous authors. And I saw this cover for Anoka and just thought, that looks fucking terrifying. That's going on my Blackoween TBR because, spooky book, spooky season, why not? It did not disappoint. This is a great collection. It, inevitably there are stories that I thought were more interesting, and then there were stories that didn't quite work for me as well. But on the whole, creepy. There were a couple of points in this book where I had to actually put it down, and partway through I made the decision to stop reading this book before bed because I always do this to myself. I save up all my spooky books that I want to read in October, and then I can't sleep. This one did not help me sleep, but it was a great book. If you like short horror fiction, I would 100% check it out. I really liked it. I read White is for Witching by Helen Oyeyemi. This is a book that is about a house and the subsequent generations of women that have lived in this house, and a sense that the house is perhaps holding these women there, not allowing them to leave. There are aspects of kind of intergenerational trauma that are built into this story. There's multiple points of view, and the prompt that I chose this for Blackoween had to do with a murder with multiple points of view, or a book with a murder with multiple points of view. And not my favorite of the month. I would like to read something else by Helen Oyeyemi because I think that the writing was really good in this book. I don't know if I found it to be a bit too heavy on the concept and not enough forward motion of the plot. Things were a little bit murky in this one for me. It wasn't always entirely clear what was going on, which is not a bad thing per se, especially in a kind of horror. There's a lot of aspects of mystery to this book, so you're not supposed to know everything that's going on at any given time, but something about this, the pacing just didn't work for me. By no means do I think it was terrible. I think I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads. It was well written. Not my favorite. I read Rootwork by Tracy Cross, and then I promptly read its sequel, A Gathering of Weapons, and I loved them both. Tracy Cross's work was not familiar to me before Blackoween. I learned about Rootwork in the context of some of the recommendations around a prompt related to ancestral wisdom. And I read Rootwork, and I liked it so much that I immediately purchased the ebook of the sequel, A Gathering of Weapons, and read it right afterwards, and I really liked both of these. These are set in the 1880s, 1890s in Louisiana. They follow 3 sisters who have an auntie who is a root worker, hence the name of the first book, Rootwork. And one of the 3 sisters in particular is very keen to become a root worker herself. And in the beginning of the first book, she's quite young, and of course, the sisters, grow up a little bit over the course of the 2 novels. And the writing of the different perspectives of the different sisters in these books is just so well done. I really fell in love with the characters in these books. I could not wait for the second one. I cannot wait for the third one, but the second one just came out, so I will be waiting a while. I appreciate Blackoween and everybody who participated so much. I would never have found necessarily these books if it wasn't for this readathon. And I think this might be the first time this year that I've read the same author twice in 1 month. But I liked the first book so much that I couldn't not. And Yeah, these are really, really good. They read as historical fiction, very much so. There is a strong aspect of root work and kind of, magical workings in the books. They tackle, his particular kind of historical aspects of sexism and racism and xenophobia in the United States, in Louisiana at the time, in the 1880s, 1890s. They're done really well. You can tell they're really well researched. I absolutely want to read more Tracy Cross. I thought these books were excellent, and I recommend them wholeheartedly to everyone. I think that they're really, really good. I read as a group book, because there are group books that change every year, of course, for Blackoween. I read another author who I've been wanting to read something from, but hadn't gotten around to yet, and that is Percival Everett. And we read The Trees by Percival Everett. This book is something. This book is unlike anything I've ever read before. I had heard of Percival Everett because my mom read Percival Everett, a different title, and really thought it was really excellent. And had mentioned Percival Everett is really excellent. You should read something from him. And of course, he's quite well known and very awarded author who's written many books. And The Trees is not his newest. It's a couple of years old, I think. I don't even know how to talk about this book. There's going to be a book discussion that I'm really looking forward to, hearing what other people thought of it. I don't know that I can't remember the last book that I read that I exclaimed aloud so many times while I was reading it. Like I had to keep kind of telling my partner, like, holy shit, this just happened in this book. It's a really interesting one because it starts off, the kind of tone of the book starts off as this kind of, two police detectives who are partners, or kind of state level police, get called in to investigate, amidst these kind of mysterious happenings, that the local police, who are a disaster in various kinds of ways, are not making any headway on figuring out what's going on. And it has a kind of comedic, it definitely plays on particular kinds of genre conventions in this kind of buddy cop way that gives it a comedic angle. But subject matter wise, it really isn't funny in the ways in which it is dealing with racist violence and dealing with murders and so on. It really takes a turn partway through and goes in a direction that I could not have seen coming. I deliberately did not read anything about this before I started reading it. I knew that there was, some unexpected twists, and I didn't want to spoiler it for myself, and I didn't, and I'm glad I didn't. This book is like nothing I've ever read before. Now I want to read everything Percival Everett has written because I haven't stopped thinking about this book. I have not stopped thinking about The Trees, and my mind is blown. Read the description of The Trees, and then, if it's of interest, do check it out. Read the content warnings, by all means, on Storygraph or elsewhere. There are definitely, some things to be aware of if content warnings are a thing that you need to be mindful of when you're reading. But, The Trees was good. The Trees was so good. So good. I cannot even tell you how good it was. It was very, very good. I cannot wait to read something else from Percival Everett. If you've read anything from Percival Everett, tell me down below if you've read anything other than The Trees that you think I should read. I read The Violin Conspiracy by Brendan Slocum. This is a mystery book that follows a young Black musician who's a violinist, as the title of the book, The Violin Conspiracy, might hint at, whose violin gets stolen. And this is not too much of a spoiler because I think that's in the book description, that the violin gets stolen. And so the book is kind of pitched as or described as this kind of mystery of who stole the violin, where is the violin, and will the musician get the violin back in time for this big competition. It is that, but it is also a story about a young musician who is interested in classical music, who experiences racist exclusion at various points in his, not just his career, but even his childhood as someone who is interested in classical music and, doesn't have the money behind him to even have his own instrument when a lot of his peers do, or to have fancy private lessons when a lot of his peers do. And I really liked this. And I know that Brendan Slocum is a musician himself and a music teacher, I believe. It really comes across in how kind of lovingly crafted the descriptions of the music are in this book. I will definitely read I know he has at least one other book that also has a musical theme, and the prompt for Blackoween was to read something with a musical theme. So yeah, I enjoyed this. Totally outside of my usual wheelhouse. I didn't think that the answer to the mystery was super difficult to figure out. I definitely got it, I think, before you were supposed to get it. But I really liked the book as a... It almost read as kind of biographical. It's fictionalized, but a story about a young musician and the hardships that he experiences as he looks to get into classical music. And I know there are aspects of the book that are autobiographical of Brendan Slocum's own experiences. And I think that really comes through as well and was quite clear even before reading the afterword, where he talks about, his own experiences of racism in the classical music world informing this story. I thought it was really good. The last book I read that I just finished at the end of October was Breath of Oblivion by Maurice Broaddus. This is a sequel I want to say it's going to be a trilogy, Astra Black trilogy. This is a science fiction trilogy. The scope of this Astra Black trilogy reminds me almost of something like The Expanse, in that there are a number of different locations in terms of kind of Earth and Mars and the belt and stations, and it is a very much Afrocentric culture, African culture in space with a bunch of different POVs, like so many that a lot of the points of view you only get to experience once or twice in a given novel. But they do continue from book one to book two. It's very much like a linear. Book two picks up where book one left off, and it's kind of a mix of like the kind of politicking of the space station, and there's this kind of different like religious and cultural tensions that different characters are navigating, and then of course there are also kind of conflicts with with other groups, and there's a very strong kind of anti-capitalist sentiment to the Astra Black trilogy, in terms of these kind of corporations running amok on Earth and in space and engaging in all kinds of like exploitative, violent behavior. And it really reads, you can tell reading this book that Maurice Broaddus, the author, is very much a community organizer. The ways that he talks about people's relationships and like decision-making processes and strategizing around what to do next, it's like you can tell he's an activist because it's very much written in that kind of language in ways that I think are really, really effective. I really like this trilogy. I think I liked Breath of Oblivion better than Sweep of Stars, which was the first one, which I found, I just found the hard copy of that. It was on sale at the bookstore and I picked it up kind of on a whim. And I'm so glad I did, because I got Breath of Oblivion as an ARC because I requested it as quickly as I possibly could, because I really like this trilogy so far. Very, very much. Definitely suggest, but I will say with Breath of Oblivion, because it's the second book in a trilogy, don't start with it. It's very much linear from the first book. Breath of Oblivion will make 0 sense without reading Sweep of Stars first. But with that caveat, I recommend them both. They're fabulous. They're fabulous. I think if someone was going to critique them, it would be that there's too many POVs. There are a lot, but they're all interesting and they feel different from each other. The character work is really well done. So definitely recommend. I really want to try something from Maurice Broaddus that isn't this trilogy because I know he's written lots of other books, none of which I have read. I have come across him in the odd short story collection. I really like his work. So that is the books I've read for October, and that's my October. I am pretty pleased with myself that I mostly got through in one sitting. With my throat, I am still recovering. I will just check in with my decks to explore / wishlist. I don't think it's actually changed. I don't think it's actually changed since we chatted last, since I looked at it. That's a lie. It might have. Yeah, it has. It totally has. I checked off My Friend Fire because I backed it on Kickstarter. So that's exciting. And I have added a couple of things. I have added the Wee Moon Tarot, which my friend Liz at West Star Tarot has, and I know a couple of other folks have as well. It would be an oracle deck for me. It is collaborative and a lot of very different art styles, but I like Wee Moon as an entity, I think, and that is making me interested in exploring the deck more. I also added to my wish list a mass market forthcoming, maybe it's out now or it's just about to come out, the Bloodlands Oracle. And the Bloodlands Oracle is coming out from, I want to say, Schiffer. And it is a black and white nature-based deck. I'll put a picture. I went to the artist's website. It's charcoal drawings. I really like the looks of this. I really like the vibe of it. It feels very druid to me. Maybe just because there's a dolmen in it, but it feels very druid to me, this deck. It's not like anything I have in terms of the titles as well as the black and white aspect. I really, really, really like the looks of this. I want to see the production first. I want to see what the cardstock is like. I want to see what the packaging is like. The book, there's some snippets of the book online, and that looks good to me. But that one is intriguing. I feel like there hasn't been a new mass market deck lately that has really caught my attention, but this one, when I saw it on Lisa Pepez's Hot Takes, this one did. So that's on my list. That's what's new. So that's my October. I am going to end this ramble. Thank you so much for sticking with me if you did. I hope that you are well, and I will see you again soon.